In today's video, I'm going to show you how to create a cinematic color grade in Photoshop using a combination of adjustment layers and apply image. And you guessed it, at the end of this, I will throw a free action your way because I love you guys. So the first thing that we need to do is hop into Photoshop. And from there, we're going to go down to the adjustment layers and add a new selective color adjustment layer. Make sure that your mask is selected there on the right-hand side and not the actual adjustment layer. Because what we want to do is go to image and apply image. And what apply image does is it plays with the highlights and the shadows within the image. If you look at the mask right now, it's applied a general image to the mask, which is the highlights and lowlights. But we want to invert it and then make sure that our layer under the source is set to the background layer. Then you can go ahead and hit OK. All right, so basically what that's going to do is create a mask in our highlights for this because it's going to apply most of this adjustment to the lowlights. So what we're going to do is go into neutrals and drop our cyans to -37. We're going to push the magenta to +3. We're going to put our yellows at +21 or so. And then we're going to drop our blacks to -20. Let's go -23. That looks good. From there, we're going to hop into the reds, and we're just going to play with this. And this is as you see fit, but I'm going over what the action is going to do for you. So for the reds, we're going to go +24 in cyan, -40, 44, 45 in magenta. We're going to add +33 to yellow, and we're going to drop our blacks to -23. Looks good. Then hop into yellows. Basically, if you've never used selected color before too, it's just pushing or pulling the amount of color that targets those specific colors. So we're targeting yellows, and we're going to drop the cyan in the yellow to -36. And then when we go into magenta, we're going to add 22. When we go into the yellow of the yellow, which sounds weird, but we're going to drop the yellows in the yellow to -42. And then we're going to push the black point up to around, let's see here, 55, 56 looks good. Then let's hop into our greens. And in this image, there are no greens, but when I created this action earlier, there was a green image that I was playing with. And what I want to do here is just show you what I did in the greens, even though there's no green in this image. We're going to put the cyan at +86, magenta plus 76, 77, 76, and then drop our yellow all the way down to -80 or so. And then our black point, we're going to push up to 100. When we hop into cyans now, we're going to pull this all the way up to 100, drop the magenta down to -100, pull the yellow down to around -71 looks good, and then push the black point all the way up to +100. Then jump into blues. And here, we're going to do this is kind of the same thing. The cyan, we're going to push to 100. Magenta, though, we're only going to drop to -27 or so. The yellow, we're going to drop to -33, it looks like. And then the black point, we're going to push all the way up to, well, not all the way. We're going to go up to around 78. We're going to skip magentas and whites, and we're going to hop right into blacks. And a little bit goes a long way in the blacks. So we're only going to go +1 in the cyan, +2 in the magenta, +6 in the yellow, and -1 in the blacks. And once we're done with our adjustments, make sure you click on the masked layer again that has our apply image in it and hit Command L to bring up the levels, because with the active mask selected that has our applied image, we can still affect the tonal ranges in here. So we can play with the black point, white point, both in the input levels and output levels. And if you look at our screen, it's 17.1, 255, and then the output levels are 78 and 222. So if you look at the thumbnail, it's just more of a neutral mask. It's not so harsh, and it's not so much. It doesn't have so much contrast in it, which would lead to a more harsh effect. Once we're done there, we're going to add a new solid color adjustment layer, and we're just going to put an orange color in there. So we're going to go 996633 in the hex color, and then make sure we select that mask again, because you guessed it. We're going to go image, apply image, and once again, we are going to want the background layer selected. Now, you can see with the preview where this color would be applied. If you hit invert, it would go to the highlights. If you hit invert on, it goes to the shadows, and that's what we want, so hit OK. First, we're going to change the fill to 50% and the blend mode to soft light. And you can see what this is doing when we toggle it on and off. It just kind of adds a little more atmosphere to the image. And if we turn off and on the applied image in the layer mask, you can see what it's doing. It's masking that from the highlights, and it's not it's not applying the whole solid color to the image. If you can see, if we zoom in there, it's not going in those highlights. We're masking it. It's kind of like if you've ever used the blend if within a layer style dialog box. So from here, we're going to want to add a new solid color adjustment layer. And this time we want to target the highlights. So we're going to add this purplish blue color, which is 663399. I lied. It's just a straight up purple color. And then once again, make sure your image mask is selected and go to image, apply image, and just apply that to the highlights this time instead of the lowlights or the shadows. Change the blend mode to overlay and set the opacity to 50% and the fill to 25. This is going to be a very, very subtle effect, and you can obviously play with it as you see fit. I just did purple for this action, but you can always double click it and change it to green, blue, cyan, whatever your heart sees fit. This is where you can play with it, and once you get the action, you can edit it. If you don't like this, you can just set it to blue and change the action, but I'm going to leave it as purple for this tutorial. And then I'm going to hit Command-Option-Shift-E to merge visible layer, and then I'm going to go apply image to this merge visible layer, and then make sure that it is set to merged and multiply, and then I'm going to change the blend mode to multiply. This is like doing a double multiply on one layer. I'm going to hit Command G to group that and name it Vignette. This is just going to be a placeholder. We don't have to use this layer if we don't want, and then I'm going to hold Option and click the layer mask to fill it with black. Then I'm going to shift click all my layers and just group them and name this Cinematic Warm, because this is what the action will do at the link below if you get it. Now that vignette layer, if we open that up, and you can see the before and after, but if we go back to that vignette, right now it's not showing anything. This is just a default. So if we hit Command I, that's what it would do. It would just darken everything. But with our brush tool selected, a very big and very soft brush, we can just click and add this custom vignette. This is up to you guys if you want to use it in the future. I've added it as part of the action, but obviously you don't have to use it. That's why I did the inverse on the layer mask, so that it's available, but you don't have to use it if you don't want to. So that's pretty much the action. That's what the action is going to do. And quickly, I'm going to show you how to apply this to other images. If I go through, I've got a few images open here that are just default images, no actions applied. And what I'm going to show you now is how to batch edit these all at once. Just with one click, we're going to add all of these with that action. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that your action is loaded. And you can see it's loaded there for me. And then go File, Automate, Batch. So if you've never used the batch dialog box before, it is magical. The first thing you want to do is make sure that your action set and action is selected, and then you can apply this to either a folder or the open files. So we have open files, and what I'm going to do is set the destination to none. Now what you could do is if you wanted these to just run and save out, you could save them to a file and you would set that up below. But I'm not going to do that because with this action, we can customize a lot. Like I showed you before, we can customize the colors, we can add that vignette, and we can play with even the selective color if we weren't happy with it. So I'm going to just run this and as destination none and hit OK. So what this is going to do is in the background, by just clicking that, it's going to go through all the open files and just run that action for us. We don't have to do anything. It's going to save us so much time. It's going to edit these like 7 or 8 photos instantly, and this is running real time for you. It's going to take a little time depending on how many images, but there you go. That's kind of what it's going to do. This is a before and after. I'm just going to go through them all just to show you that it ran before, after, before and after. That one's cool. I like how it affects those greens and blues. Before and after. It's just a very warm cinematic effect, and it's so quick and easy. Look at this. It's beautiful. So there you go, just that quickly we can add a cinematic color grade in Photoshop. Plus, be sure to get that free action at the website below. That is my website. It is completely free. Donations are welcome if you are so inclined. But I hope you've learned something, and I think we should do this again sometime.